Hey, let me ask you something for a second. Have you noticed how things around the team have started to heat up lately? It feels like something big could be about to happen, and honestly, fans are starting to get excited again. There are a lot of moving pieces right now, some decisions being made behind the scenes, and if things go the way many people expect, this could completely change the direction of the season. So stick with me here, because what's developing right now might be one of the most interesting storylines we've seen in a while. I'll tell you everything in detail, but first, be sure to click the like button and subscribe to stay informed. Let's go. Something significant is unfolding around the Minnesota Vikings on day 2 of NFL free agency, and it could reshape the direction of the franchise at the most important position on the field. At the same time, the team is quietly making moves to stabilize other areas of the roster, and one of those decisions has already been finalized. The Vikings are bringing back long snapper Andrew DePaula, keeping a familiar piece of the special teams unit in Minnesota. For fans who follow the small but critical details of roster construction, this matters. The Vikings' special teams core has long been built around a trusted trio: Andrew DePaula handling long snaps, Ryan Wright punting, and the rest of the operation functioning with consistency. But there was a shakeup just a day earlier when punter Ryan Wright left Minnesota and signed with the New Orleans Saints. That departure leaves the Vikings with an immediate task: finding a new punter to complete the special teams puzzle. Bringing DePaula back ensures at least one key part of that unit remains stable as the front office searches for a replacement. But while that move helps stabilize special teams, the story dominating the conversation in Minnesota revolves around the quarterback position, and one name continues to surface with increasing momentum: Kyler Murray. According to reporting shared during the discussion, insider Ian Rapoport indicated that the Minnesota Vikings are expected to meet with Kyler Murray once he is officially released by the Arizona Cardinals. The expectation surrounding the situation is clear. Once that release becomes official, the door opens for Minnesota to aggressively pursue the former Cardinals quarterback. And if the projections hold true, this process could move very quickly. There is growing speculation that a deal could come together shortly after the release becomes official, potentially even the same evening. The timing discussed suggests that if everything aligns, a signing could happen around Wednesday night. While there is always the possibility of another visit, the New York Jets have been mentioned as a potential alternative destination. The overwhelming sentiment around the situation is that Minnesota is currently the most logical landing spot. In fact, multiple signals point toward a mutual interest. Players within the Vikings organization reportedly want Kyler Murray to join the team, and Murray himself is believed to be interested in Minnesota as well. At this stage, the primary obstacle is procedural. The quarterback simply needs to be formally released by the Arizona Cardinals before negotiations can progress into an official agreement. When you step back and examine the broader quarterback landscape across the league, the situation becomes even more intriguing. There appear to be 3 teams still actively searching for stability at the position: the Minnesota Vikings, the New York Jets, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are widely expected to bring back Aaron Rodgers, which could remove them from the equation. If that scenario plays out, the competition for Murray could narrow significantly, leaving Minnesota in a strong position. Even if Pittsburgh unexpectedly enters the race, the Vikings still present a compelling situation. The infrastructure in Minnesota is difficult to ignore. The offensive weapons are in place, the defense has talent, and head coach Kevin O'Connell provides an offensive system that could maximize a quarterback's strengths. It's also worth remembering that the Vikings managed to finish 9-8 last season despite inconsistent quarterback play. From Murray's perspective, stepping into a roster that already proved capable of winning games could be a major opportunity. Imagine the calculation from the quarterback's side: A team that won 9 games despite instability at quarterback suddenly presents an opening. A player with Kyler Murray's talent might reasonably look at that situation and believe he could elevate that win total even further. And that's exactly why the potential move is generating so much discussion among Vikings fans right now. However, as exciting as the possibility may sound, there are still important questions surrounding Murray, and they mainly revolve around durability. Over the last several seasons, injuries have interrupted his availability. In 2025, he played only 5 of 17 games due to a Lisfranc-type midfoot sprain. In 2023, he was still recovering from an ACL injury suffered the year before, and in 2021 he also dealt with a Grade 2 ankle sprain. Those injuries are part of the evaluation teams must consider. But at the same time, supporters argue that when Murray has been healthy, the talent has never been in doubt. And that's where this potential Vikings storyline becomes so fascinating. Because if Minnesota truly believes the upside outweighs the risk, the franchise could soon make one of the most talked-about moves of the entire offseason. But now, I want to hear from you. Vikings fans, if Kyler Murray really does become available, and the Vikings have the chance to sign him, do you want Minnesota to make that move? Or would you rather see the team pursue a different quarterback option? Drop your opinion in the comments, because this debate is just getting started. Something even bigger begins to take shape when we look deeper into why the Minnesota Vikings could truly be the perfect landing spot for Kyler Murray. This isn't just about filling a quarterback vacancy. It's about a franchise that may have stumbled last offseason at the position, suddenly finding a rare opportunity to reset the trajectory of the entire offense. Because when people debate whether the Vikings should pursue Murray, many point to 2 main criticisms that have circulated around the league in recent seasons. The first is durability, which we already touched on. The second is his ability to push the football downfield consistently. Since 2022, critics often highlight statistics showing Kyler Murray ranking near the bottom of the league in completion percentage on deep passes, expected points added per attempt, and yards per attempt. Those numbers are frequently used as evidence that his game has declined. But that argument leaves out a major piece of context. If you rewind the clock to the early years of Murray's career, specifically from 2019 through 2021, he was actually among the most effective quarterbacks in the NFL when attacking downfield. The shift that followed coincided with significant changes in Arizona's offensive structure and the situations in which those throws were being attempted. Instead of high-percentage vertical opportunities created by scheme, the offense often relied on checkdowns, and when deep shots were taken, they weren't always built on favorable matchups or protection. That's why some analysts believe those struggles say more about the Cardinals' system than about Murray's raw ability as a passer. And when you examine the last fully healthy season he played, the numbers reinforce that belief. In 2024, Murray delivered an impressive performance in several key metrics. He posted the 8th best Pro Football Focus grade among quarterbacks operating from a clean pocket. He recorded 21 big-time throws while producing only 3 turnover-worthy plays. His passer rating reached 106.5, which firmly places him in elite territory when everything around him is functioning correctly. Those numbers illustrate why some within the Vikings fan base see this potential signing not as a gamble, but as a gift. And the argument goes even deeper when you consider the environment Murray was playing in with the Arizona Cardinals. Since 2020, when Murray has not been on the field, the Cardinals have struggled dramatically. The team has produced a record of just 5 wins and 25 losses without him in the lineup. That level of struggle paints a clear picture. Despite the criticism he receives nationally, Murray has often been the one stabilizing force in an otherwise struggling organization. From that perspective, the Vikings could be acquiring a quarterback whose reputation has been damaged more by circumstances than by his actual performance. Now imagine that player stepping into Kevin O'Connell's offense, surrounded by a roster that already managed to finish with a winning record despite inconsistent quarterback play. That scenario is exactly why so many around the league are watching Minnesota closely over the next 24 to 48 hours. But the quarterback storyline isn't the only element shaping the Vikings' offseason right now. Free agency continues to unfold across the league, and several high-profile players remain available. The question becomes whether any of those names could realistically fit into Minnesota's roster plans. One of the biggest remaining free agents is pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. However, that position group is already one of the Vikings' strengths, featuring players like Dallas Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel. Because of that depth, Minnesota is not expected to pursue Hendrickson. Other notable free agents include offensive tackles like Rashid Walker and Braden Smith, but the Vikings appear comfortable with their current tackle situation as well. There are some more intriguing possibilities further down the list. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill has been mentioned, especially considering Minnesota lost wide receiver 3 Jalen Nailor to the Las Vegas Raiders. Hill reportedly grew up a Vikings fan, which adds an interesting twist. However, concerns surrounding off-field issues and a significant leg injury create multiple red flags that could make Minnesota hesitant to pursue him. Another interesting discussion among fans centers on the idea of a reunion with Stefon Diggs. As a potential third receiver in the offense, Diggs could still provide separation and reliable hands. While such a move might not dramatically change the roster, it would certainly generate excitement among the fan base. There are also defensive options still on the board. Safety, Kevin Byard stands out as a veteran presence who could add experience to the secondary. A short-term deal, potentially around 1 year and $5 million, could make sense if Minnesota wants additional depth and leadership in that unit. Other names like Deebo Samuel, Jaylon Hawkins, and Logan Hall have also surfaced in discussions depending on roster needs and contract demands. Each could fill a role if the Vikings decide to continue adding pieces after addressing the quarterback situation. But make no mistake, everything still circles back to the same storyline. The Minnesota Vikings are potentially on the verge of making one of the most fascinating quarterback moves of the entire offseason. If Kyler Murray is released and the expected meeting happens, the next step could come quickly. And if a deal is finalized, it could instantly shift the expectations for the Vikings heading into the upcoming season. So now the question goes directly to you, Vikings fans. If Minnesota signs Kyler Murray, do you believe he can lead this team back into serious playoff contention? And beyond the quarterback situation, which remaining free agent would you most like to see the Vikings add before the offseason ends? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you're excited about the possibility of Kyler Murray in purple and gold. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next major Vikings update.